This is track C. We are going to get started on track C. And the topic for this track today afternoon is internal audit, talent, and skill building. Very glad to see in a good crowd for this topic. I think it has attracted, the topic itself has attracted a lot of crowd, a lot of interest on talent and skill building. So today, our speaker, where do I start? Today, our speaker for this topic is Mr. Sivaram Subramoniam. I don't know if all of you know him. He's a very, very popular person in the internal audit fraternity. So he's currently he's the chief internal auditor of Titan Company Limited. I'm sure you've all heard of Titan Company Limited. And it's a $3 billion company. It's a leading lifestyle product company, I'm sure you all know. And Mr. Sivaram has about 30 plus years of experience, and out of it 20 years in the leadership role, senior role. And he's worked with consulting and in the industry where his area of expertise are into corporate MNCs and Indian conglomerate, listed companies, and as well as promoter-driven organization. And his industry domain ranges from infrastructure, manufacturing, aviation, telecom to consumer durables, FMCG, retail, hospitality, and media. He has led several corporate governance agendas, initiatives, and has been an integral part of several large-scale transformation and strategic projects. His team has been awarded the IAA Award for the best use of technology for continuous auditing and analytics in 2019 and in 2022, as well as Altrix Customer Excellence Award in the Performer category in Asia Pac region 2022. So I think that's about Mr. Sivaram, and we are eager to listen to you, sir. Over to you. Thank you.
I just hope when he said that you've heard about Titan, I'm sure you're also buying products from Titan and not just hearing about it. Okay. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Deviyon Sajano, Namaskar. Anaivarkum Vanakkam. My deepest gratitude to IIA for even thinking about considering me on this onerous responsibility of talking about skill and talent in internal audit. And must say quite unashamedly that after looking at the first keynote session, I'm full of trepidation on this is the first technical session, so-called, and let's hope the Sri Ganesh goes well. Very gracious and generous professional introduction about me. A very quick personal introduction about me. Sivaram Subramoniam, head of audit at Titan. The 4 dots in the India map is just to say that I was born in South, brought up in North. I started my career in East, got married in West, and now resettled in South in Bangalore. The session that I'm going to speak about is on internal audit talent. And it's very difficult when you talk about internal audit talent, internal audit skill. And so while there are certain attributes which are specific for let's say internal audit, there are several attributes which probably are common for all the professionals, a little bit more for internal audit or a little bit less. So I'm going to be talking about maybe the attributes, and I'm not going to be talking about it in a set of attribute or something like that. I'm probably guessing that, and I heard someone saying that I weave a lot of stories. So today also, I'm going to be talking about it was initially a small story because I thought it was a 20-minute presentation. Later on, I realized that it's a 45 to 50-minute, so I've made it a long story. So this is going to be a story today. And this story is about a gentleman called Indraneel Adit Dhar. And before, I just forgot to introduce, give a little bit of more personal introduction about me. I'm a chartered accountant by qualification, and it is so much ingrained in my personal life that 2 very important ladies in my life, my wife, my daughter. My wife's name is Lakshmi, which also means cash, Daughter's name is Shreya, which means credit. So that's how, my personal life is also getting ingrained into the, in the professional life and the personal life getting ingrained. Indraneel Adidhar is also a similar category, probably the contrary. He took his name very seriously. He took his name so seriously that he removed few alphabets, nudged few, added few, and became an internal auditor. Indraneel Adidhar, internal auditor. So I'm going to talk about a story about Indraneel Adidhar, who is also an internal auditor. Now this internal auditor in this story is a head of audit of a very big conglomerate. Probably you can add the Adani, the Ambani and Tatas all put together and think about all kind of businesses that would be happening. But the story can equally be for a practicing internal auditor, a partner handling internal audit accounts, or even a senior manager in internal audit, or an internal auditor. But this story is going to be Indraneel is a head of audit of a large group. Now, this is one day in the life of Indraneel. 7 a.m., I took this liberty, presuming that people in Chennai would wake up early, or, this happens that, consultants usually wake up late, and probably the industry guys wake up slightly early, but 7 a.m., but there is a reason why 7 a.m. Indraneel is, this is Indraneel. I could not fetch many pictures similarly in various actions, but whatever pics you will see of Indraneel will be similar to this face, but this is Indraneel, and 7 a.m., if you look at it, he's all suited, booted. Why? Because this organization, which also does a lot of CSR activities, and one of the CSR activities is in the area of agri-tech and building up water tables and improving crop efficiency and stuff like that. And there is this particular area where there is so much of drought that they are not able to achieve a lot of their objectives of CSR. And therefore, this organization believes that it should do a havan to invoke the Lord Varuna or the rain gods. So at 7 a.m., there is an office havan happening, and Indraneel comes there. And obviously there are other CEOs, CXOs, CFOs and everything. Indraneel comes. The only difference between the other CEOs, CXOs and Indraneel is that he is the only one, imagine this is to invoke rain gods. Indraneel is the only one who comes with an umbrella. Now why I am trying to say here is before we learn or we want to be internal auditors or build skills and talent, the first thing we need to build is conviction. As internal auditors, we will always face skepticism. There will always be a question on what we are adding as value or what we are talking about, and therefore you will always face this skepticism as to why are you guys coming and just bothering us? Why are you just coming and highlighting mistakes and past? But as internal auditors, as Dr. Debashish also mentioned, if you have conviction, that's the first skill attribute that you need to build. And it doesn't come on its own. You have to build that conviction that you as internal auditors are adding value. And therefore, if someone says that, this is not adding value, demonstrate it. And for a havan, which is to invoke rain gods, go with the umbrella. 7 a.m., the havan is over. 8 a.m., Indraneel is walking out of this havan puja. And he finds his security head and a cop talking animatedly. They're speaking about something, he's far off, and he just walks up to them. And so this security head says that there has been a death in the office. A person was found dead on his desk. It seems that he has committed suicide. There is a printed suicide note. It is not signed, but there is a printed suicide note. There was a coffee cup. They have taken it for the post-mortem. He says, I'm consuming poison. The residue of the poison in the cups appears to be in the body also. And there are fingerprints on the letter of this guy. So the cops are believing this is a suicide. But still they want to have a look at it. And also the security head requests Indraneel also to, can you just come with me? And therefore they go. This obviously the body is moved, but this is how they found him, with a coffee cup next to him and a suicide note next to it. And when they say that they found the fingerprints also. So Indraneel, after looking at everything, asks a very simple question. Are there fingerprints on the backside of the note? So suddenly these guys rush and try and figure out what happened, and then they checked up. there are no fingerprints on the reverse side of the note. So Indra will ask a question, how can someone pick out a paper from a printer without touching the back side? So therefore, he is casting that doubt on whether it is really a suicide or could it be a murder. Out of box thinking, challenging the status quo, look what is not there, which all translates into professional skepticism. That's the next skill you need to be building up as an internal auditor. Whatever it is there, what is apparent, is that all what we need to see, or is it that we always need to challenge the status quo? It is, during World War II, Britain was almost on its knee with German bombers really, almost blowing every other RAF, Royal Air Force planes. And what these guys were doing is that whatever planes would come back in England, all the scientists would rush across, see wherever it was shot, try and figure out, can I make this stronger? Can I make this more stronger? Can I make this of a stronger metal? So on and so forth. When one guy went and told him, guys, you're making a mistake. Don't look at the spots where it has been shot of the planes which have come back. If it has been shot and the plane has come back, it is strong. Please look at the places where it is not shot at all, because it was shot and it is gone, therefore it is not here. That is challenging the status quo, looking at what is not there. That's the second skill. I mean, I might lose the count, I'm just remembering this is since it is second skill, but that's the next skill. Once you have the conviction, whatever you are looking at it, unless and until you think about it out of box. So, for people who are from north, they may be able to correlate. You must have heard of this shire called Ghalib. And there is this couplet which he says, Hui muddat Ghalib mar gaya. It's been a long time since Ghalib is dead. Par har baat pe yaad aata hai. But we always remember him. Ki yun hota to, wo har ek baat pe kehna, yun hota to kya hota. Every time he is constantly saying, what if this happens, what if this happens. The iterations that you need to do whenever you look at a problem, whenever you look at a aspect, whenever you're looking at a process, whenever you're looking at the attributes of that process. So that's the important thing from a professional skepticism. Everything you see, he has approved, that person has approved, but what can go wrong? 9:30, now he's kind of put the seed of doubt in the people's mind that this may not be a suicide, it could be a murder. Now he's having a review with his team. Nice review. Just to say, this is about, to give a background, this is about let's say a potato chips manufacturing activity. The company is facing a lot of sales return. It's a CFA model, CFA sends to distributor, and then there are a lot of sales return. And this company is predominantly a cash and carry model. And therefore, if there are sales return, the distributor has already paid money. So the aspect of sales dumping is not there. Because the distributor is paying money. It's not that I'm just saying, keep this, we will worry about it later. And therefore, there is a major worry why the sales return is increasing constantly. And they are like, this is the warehouse and where they pick up, and they're doing a lot of analytics. They've done a lot of analytics to say, is it the location of the distributor? Is it the route of the distributor? Is it the type of the vehicle in which it goes? Is it urban, suburban, rural? Is it which bay? I mean, any amount of analytics that you could do, they tried, but they could not find any sense, and they're all breaking their heads about it. There was only one aspect which was showing some amount of resemblance to a higher share of sales return, was dispatches happening after around 4 to 4:30 p.m. So, the ratio of sales return on those dispatches were more as compared to the ratio of other dispatches. So, this constant conversation is happening. There are a lot of analytics which are happening, and then there is this CFA or this CFA checklist which says how many yellow bulbs have been converted to white bulb. It is one of the health checks for the CFA. Very simple thing, look at the obvious or whatever. How much have you moved from a white bulb to red bulb? And there was also one more thing which has happened, is that in order to optimize the cartons in which the chips packets are put. Earlier what would happen is there is a blue color packet, they will, in a particular flavor, they will all go in one box. There is a red color which will go in one box, yellow color which will go in one box. Now, in order to optimize this, what they did was they printed all the 4 colors into it. and would basically put a tick that this contains a blue or this contains a red or whatever it is. Now the problem was that because of more yellow lights, the ticks were not seen properly. The ticks were not seen properly, therefore they were picking up a blue thinking it is a yellow and delivering, and the distributor said, listen, I didn't want this. In my location, people like the salted one more than the sweeter ones. So that was one of the reasons. So 5 whys and understanding a reason for an activity. Now I want to ask a question to this forum here. Have you heard our parents, grandparents saying that we should not be cutting our nails on a Thursday night? Have you heard? Yeah, is it? Any idea why? Okay, I'll give you a very classic idea, as I understood it after a lot of research. If you cut your nails on a Thursday night, you can't open the beer cans or chips packet on Friday night party. The point I want to make is that as auditors, sometimes we also go and say open purchase orders, long pending GRN, GRIR, long pending entries in GRIR and all. Unless and until we understand the reason why we don't want it, you will not be able to do the justification. In this case, the yellow and white light were for carbon emission norms, as well as the clarity, as well as the way that the bay looks, right? That was the reason. Look at that and then see the problems and try and correlate. Which is why the 5 whys, ask a question. You find a problem, please go 3 stages behind to say why did this happen? Or if this has happened, what will happen? So 5 whys behind and 5 whats ahead is what you need to do if you want to really come and give a conclusive. And I'm saying it with all humility, this is a real life case, which I've told about. Root causing. I'll again put one more question. If I were to say that Ravan, not the movie, but actual mythological demon Raman was killed because of a quality problem. And I'm not talking about the quality of his upbringing. Ravan was killed because of a quality problem. Does it sound very odd to you? Yeah? Now, I'll just do that 5 whys here, okay? Why was Ravan killed? Because he was in a war with Ram. Why was he in a war with Ram? These are the 5 whys. Okay? Why was he in a war with Ram? Because he kidnapped Sita. Why did he kidnap Sita? Because Lakshman cut Shurpanakha's nose. Why did Lakshman cut Shurpanakha's nose? Because Shurpanakha attacked Sita. Why did Shurpanakha attack Sita? Where did she get this courage to, attack 2 strong warriors' wife? Because they were alone in the forest. Why were they alone in the forest? Because Dashrath sent them to forest. Why did Dashrath send them to forest? Because Kaikai asked this boon. Why did he agree to Kaikai? Because Kaikai, he had offered this boon to Kaikai. Why did he give this boon to Kaikai? Because she saved him in an old war. Why did she have to save him? Because he got stuck. Why did he get stuck? Because his chariot broke. Why did the chariot broke? Because someone did a poor quality check. It might sound funny, but please, I'm telling you from my experience, if you do this 5 why, don't, and please don't mind it when I say don't, I'm not directly talking about to you guys. There is, I'm telling you classic observation, there is no process to monitor excess credit. So many cases overdue for more than 20 days or 20 months or whatever it is. Root cause, there is no process. Why is there no process? Maybe you were in a cash and carry business and you moved into a credit business and you didn't have it. Because it is a legacy practice continuing. Because there was a confusion that finance felt the business is doing, businesses felt that the finance is doing. Get to that root cause. So 9:30 in this review is over, and they are also now figuring out really they can go back to the client and say, listen, change your yellow bulbs to white bulbs and probably your sales returns would come down. And obviously the most important thing is analytics. Nothing of this could have been possible unless you had done all those analytics of various types of attributes. Now there was a question which I heard a few weeks back when they said that, analytics, and I've been speaking about this especially since we won those Alteryx award and all, is that analytics always doesn't throw you the final thing because there are so many false positives in your system. So the logic that we apply is do analytics, identify the first level outliers, Go to your voucher. You can't do it without getting into the voucher. Go to your voucher, identify out of this which are those which are not false positives, understand the attributes of those false, non-false positives and those genuine cases, apply all those attributes back to your analytics. And then you give something which is called more on the universe per se. Okay, 10:30. As I said, this was only photo which I could see with a guy in first. So this is, assume this is Indraneel. Look, I know it's very different from the first photo. But this is Indraneel. He's getting a call and he's reminded of something. It is a call from his colleague, his subordinate. And he's remembering something that 6 weeks or 6 months back, this guy had called frantically saying, sir, I need chutti for 4 days, I need a leave, I can't come, my wife is in absolute pain, and I have to take home. And Indraneel is like, okay guys, fine, relax. Tell me what's the problem. No, sir, she's under so much pain, I can't bear it, I'm sure it is appendicitis. And Indraneel is saying, hey, WhatsApp University, Google College and all are fine. Just because she is having a stomachache doesn't mean it is appendicitis. Have you consulted a doctor? No, but I'm sure it is. Now this guy is thinking he's probably making a fun. This is a critical time. He's not done his job. He wants to avoid it so that his fallacies are not identified. This is audit committee time. He has not completed his work. He's trying to give an excuse, and Indraneel is all, and you are very irresponsible. How can you say that? Just you are making it, sorry. Audible? Am I audible? Yeah. So just because you are saying it, and he's shouting at his subordinate, poor guy. His wife is there holding her stomach and shouting, and this is what is happening. And therefore, finally they take her to the hospital, figure out it is appendicitis, and he takes a 5 days leave, and Indraneel was feeling very bad about it. And this is the thought going on as he is looking at this phone. Obviously, 5 days down the line, there is an audit committee. He is just reminded of that day. And exactly the same thing. Sir, my wife is having absolute stomachache. I have to take 5 days leave. And Indraneel is like furious. He's saying, what the hell? No, sir, it is appendicitis. And this time Indraneel is like saying, listen, I know I made a mistake last time. But for all said and done, this much I also know, a person has only one appendicitis. So don't you give the same excuse again and again. This saying, no, sir. He says, listen, I'm going to now sack you. I know a person has only one appendix. He says, yes, sir, a person has only one appendix, but he can have 2 wives, no. So while Indraneel is thinking about his first wife, he actually has a second wife who's also facing the same problem, perhaps. Now, this put Indraneel in a bad light. Why? Because there was a lack of, he did not know that he could have 2 wives. Facts. Without knowing, without having the facts. These are skills I'm saying. I'm going back to the topic. As an internal auditor, you need to make sure. Okay, all you guys who are writing, there is a summary in the end. So you can just copy it that time. So facts. I'll tell you, no preparation, no amount of preparation is over preparation when it comes to internal audit fighting, or not fighting really, or going and presenting it, whether it's to the senior stakeholder, audit committee, even a process owner discussion. If you have every fact, I'll come back to, and this is, I very distinctly remember this was something which I spoke to in 2019 in a Chennai conference only, is that you guys have heard about Shikandi in Mahabharata? Now what happened in case of Shikandi was that this guy, Bhishma, was a very, very ferocious warrior. No one could, even Arjun could not do any damage to Bhishma. And finally what they had to do, they bought Shikandi. Shikandi was a transgender warrior. He or she was, in the previous birth, a lady, born as a male. So she was like a transgender, and they put him in front of Arjun in the chariot and sent to fight Bhishma. Bhishma knew she was a lady, therefore he threw his arms down because he would not fight a lady, anyone who's not a man, and they killed Bhishma. Facts are the Shikandi. Whatever strong process owner you are going and arguing, if you have facts, he will have to throw his arms down. So think about it from that thing. No amount of data, don't go by hearsay, don't go by general understanding. And I'll give a very classic example. We were discussing our audit plan 5 days back. And we went to our, so as you know, Titan has jewelry, watches, eye care, and everything. And we were saying, okay, we need to do every business. We were earlier picking marketing expenses. This time we felt we should look at it maybe a nature of spend wise. So we said we'll do print and media. Instead of doing jewelry marketing, we'll do print expenses for all. I'm looking at Suradda because I'll have to come back to him and ask a lot of insights from him. And print and media. And when I was speaking to I had a word with the eye care head, and we were saying, print chota hai, dekh lo karna hai to nahi karna hai karke. And I went to the jewelry guy and I was saying, yeah, maybe print is less and we will focus more on media. And he looked at me. He said, is there a data to substantiate it or is it anecdotal? That's a senior guy, he's looking at a 30,000 crore business. And that's what he made a statement. And I was like, at that point of time, like held back. Then I realized, in the last 30 days or during the festival season, I have hardly seen eye care ads in the print, but I have seen enough of Tanishq ads. So I also was not equipped with the fact that print is heavy in Tanishq and maybe extremely low in eye care. And that led to a little bit of discomfort in that conversation or whatever it is. So I am giving you a very live example, and this is just an audit plan discussion and a risk perspective or a materiality perspective. So facts, 10:30, this long call has happened. So already 38 minutes spent on this. He's getting late for his 11 o'clock meeting. So therefore, this meeting is happening between a process owner and his number two or a manager, whatever we want to choose. Very animated discussion. This is around the fact that there's a supply chain discussion on spectacles business. And this auditor is saying that, listen, there is so much of club loading which is possible, but you're not doing it. You could wait for 6 hours together, put all the spectacles together and courier it, but you're not doing it, and you're doing it only 1 hour or 2 hours or whatever, every 1 hour. So therefore, you have much more number of consignments, and each one of them you have to paying a minimum commitment and stuff like this. And this guy is trying to explain, listen, cost per delivery is not my KRA. My KRA is getting the specs to the customer ASAP. But this auditor is saying, but there is an opportunity. And therefore, this is going on, and then this supply chain guy is almost about to call up the CEO saying that, listen, this is where I am. Tomorrow, if my net promoter score or my customer score, satisfaction score goes down, don't tell me, because the auditor is insisting on cost saving. And this is where Indranil intervenes and then talks about a situation, explains to them on as to how you can look at, okay, this is your primary, this is your secondary, what is the Venn diagram, what is the amount which is inside where you could have met your primary as well as your secondary. Otherwise, both of them were talking from two separate systems. So, having empathy, understanding other person's view, process KPIs, and business understanding. This is absolutely a must for an internal auditor to develop these skills of having an empathy, understanding the process KPIs, and the business understanding. Conflict resolution. Also, while I understand we all have a lot of fiduciary responsibilities, just narrating a very small story. Maybe 300-400 years back, there is this king who is with his entourage going out of the town, and there is this very renowned sage who is coming inside the town. And there is a river which is in the border of the town or his kingdom, and there is a very narrow, like the Lakshman Jhula, very narrow bridge. So the sage is coming from that side inside, the king is going from this side outside. And they meet at the center. Very respectful king says, oh sage, so nice to see you. I'm very happy that your blessed feet are going to touch my kingdom. I'll be happy to learn. And the sage also says, yes, king, I'm very happy to be a part of your be an acceptor of your hospitality. I've heard you're a patronage for learned wisdom and stuff like that. And then the king says, I just have some important administrative work. Can I walk out and do that work? In the meanwhile, you can please, one or two people will take you back. Take care, I'll come back and meet you. He says, yeah, please discharge your responsibilities first and then we will talk. So then the king says, sir, can you please move aside? I need to go. No. I am a learned man. Why should I step aside? You step aside, I will go. Now the king says, okay, I am the king. Why should I step aside? And this is a conversation now which is now started, which was very nice, has now started happening in a very debatable manner. You move, I move, you move, and all that stuff. So finally it goes out of proportion, and then the sage gets so upset, he says, I am cursing you. You become a demon. And he becomes a Rakshas, and out of the thing he becomes a big thing. And what does the Rakshas do? First thing he does is he eats the sage. Now close your eyes. Think that this king is a CEO or a process head, and the sage is the internal auditor. Where do you draw a line between to win or to be right? That's conflict resolution. Today you may have the power to make him convince on something. But end of the day, is it really required in that manner? What needs to go to the board? What needs to come to the senior management? What needs to go to the process owner? Is a very important thing when you're looking at a conflict resolution. Okay, 12:30, poor guy woke up early, came to that Bhavan early, did not get enough prasad, so he's having a lunch. Now this lunch he's having with this new CFO who's joined. And they're having lunch, yeah, burgers here, could be anything. And so this CFO, and okay guys, whenever I'm talking that an auditor does like this, or a process owner does like this, I have utmost respect to them, utmost respect for them. It is just from a storytelling perspective that I'm using these names. Now this CFO is like saying, general pleasantries, how are you, and where have you worked? I have worked there, okay, what are the top challenges, and all that nonsense, and I mean, not nonsense really, but general pleasantries. And then the CFO says, I have worked in MNCs. I have worked in Indian companies. I have worked in Japanese companies. The only problem I consistently see with all auditors is that you love your voice. You love to give reams and reams and reams of paper as a report, and I just don't have time. And I have seen this when I was a unit controller, when I was a finance head, when I was a treasury head, when I am a CFO, I am seeing this. Indranil is hearing it and he's smiling and he says, what is your view? Indranil smiles, says, not like that, it's okay. No, he's now become very possessive about his stand. And he's seeing that Indranil is not reacting. So he's very possessive, he says, takes out a 500 rupee note. He says, this 500 rupee note is yours if you can respond to whatever I have said till now in 2 or less than 2 words. I will prove it to you that you can't. You will have to speak a lot, and that is what your problem is. This 500 rupees is yours. 2 or less than 2 words, you respond. Indranil looks at him, smiles, picks up that money, puts it in his pocket, and says, you lose. Just 2 words, you lose. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that brevity, precision, clarity, and relevance of communication is the next thing that as internal auditors we need to understand. As internal auditors, I have seen that a presentation made to a process owner and a presentation made to a CXO and a presentation sometimes made to a managing director or someone, we end up, maybe it is concise, but we end up saying the same thing in the same manner, in the same cadence or whatever it is. Again, I'll maybe just completely digress from internal audit and talk about, see, the Christians and Jews have something called a promised land. And there's only one promised land. In Hinduism, there are 3 promised lands. Which are the 3? The Swargaloka, the Kailasham, and the Vaikuntham. Now, what is Swargaloka? We're good on time, right? What is Swargalokam? We are at 12:30, maybe just a couple of more hours. Auditors don't work that much. So, Swargalokam, you all know, fine people, wining and dining, beautiful apsaras dancing, people enjoying. But whenever you have looked at most of the time the Indra's picture or whatever it is, he would be always on that Airavat. Airavat is in this warrior gear, his Vajra is in his hand. Because Indralok is always under constant attack by the Asuras. Whatever mythology stories you read, you will always find an Asura attacking an Indra and some guy coming and saving or whatever it is. That is Indraloka. People are enjoying, but there is a constant pressure. That's one promised land for us. The second is Mount Kailasham. Now, Mount Kailasham, if you look at it, has the utmost contempt contentment. Think about it. What is Lord Shiva's Vahan? The bull, Nandi. What is Goddess Durga's Vahan? The lion. What is in the neck of Lord Shiva? Snake. What does the lion eat? Bull. What does the snake eat? Mouse. What is Lord Ganesha's Vahan? The mouse. What is Lord Kartikeya's Vahan? The peacock. What does it do? It kills the snake. Now, the lion and the bull, the snake, the mouse, the peacock, everyone seems to be living in absolute peace. No problem. So you had one stage where people are enjoying under constant threat, and you have one place where so-called natural enemies are living in peace. And then obviously the third one, as we said, is about the Vaikuntha, where you would normally find the Lord engaging with everyone. He will be dancing with someone, he will be playing games with someone, or whatever it is. Now what I'm trying to say is that your own behavior will have to change. Again, I would say close your eyes and think. Swargalok is like the front-end salespeople or the supply chain guys. They will be in the limelight. Best salesman of the year, 300 crores, 20 crores, 300 stores opened. They will always be in the limelight, but constantly under pressure. Your CEOs will be those guys who will be having a fight between supply chain and everything, but he will manage everyone. He'll be fairly comfortable. And then the board is one which engages with everyone. Now, your own communication, your own way and style of speaking to them, what you want to do, that is what the relevance is more important, has to be different. So communication, the way you do it, what you do it, when you do it, is the next part that you need to understand. 2:30, long lunch. Now there is a follow-up activity. And some of my colleagues from this business would maybe appreciate a little bit of this thing, because this is also almost a real incident, true story. So this is a follow-up review happening. This is a follow-up review of a port operation. And the team had gone last time and said that, listen, there was this so much of capital expenditure done for port expansion and everything, but the business doesn't seem to be happening, right? So they had made an observation saying you're not having a concept to commissioning, that you committed so much of throughput, so much of volumes, and stuff like that, but it is not happening, so therefore you should have this process. And they've gone back now for a follow-up audit and coming back and extremely happy. Extremely happy, why? Because they say, no, now they have changed their business model. Earlier they were only looking at full load ships to come and empty. Now they are okay with, part load being emptied here, part load going somewhere else. At least my capacity is utilized properly and everything. The team is very happy. Now, before I move ahead, I just need to explain few things to you here. If you look at it, these are called hatches, these things, which is where coal is transported. So when the ship comes, the coal is inside that. And this is the crane, which is something similar to this, is what picks it up. Now the only problem in this is, assuming this is the hatch, if this is the hatch, the crane moves only in one direction. It can't take it from here, 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 and here. It can take only from here. So once this part is over, they put in excavators inside and move the coal to the middle. That's the process. Now this company is extremely ahead of time. What it has done is, it has said, okay, if this hatch contains 100 tons of coal, and 30, 40 I can pick up like this, and 60 I need to push. And therefore, what is the cost, or how much hours does this excavator needs to work to push it? And then say, okay, if it needs to work for 100 hours, cost per running is so many rupees. So they have worked out a per ton rate, so that if there is a lesser coal which is being taken out, they pay less. That's broadly it is. So now, Indranil asks a question, is that, okay, now they are doing it. What is the percentage that these guys take out? Because now, earlier it was full, now it is half. So he says normally around 40% is for this port, our port, and then it goes to some other port. Then he says, okay, is it that we pick up 3 hatches out of the 7 which are there, or we pick from each hatch? So this team runs back and figures out, oh, it is from each of these hatch, it picks 40%. Then he asks, are we the first port of call, or are we the last port of call? Again, the team goes back and checks and then says, no, we are the first port of call. So then Indranil asks a question. If I am the first port of call, and then he asks, am I paying for that excavator on a per ton basis? They say yes. Then he says, if I'm only picking 30% or 40%, I don't need to pick from the side. That means these excavators are not being used at all, because I have picked the first 40%. So why am I even paying for it? What I'm wanting to say is understand that the team started with an excellent thing to probably now raising a question on whether our own model is correct or not. And therefore understanding the risk that it keeps changing with each step and everything doesn't remain same is a very important aspect. So whenever you're looking at it, please go. Linking it back, the change of carton, there is a risk which has changed. There is an efficiency which came, but there is a risk which also came with that. So 4:30, he has a monthly catch-up with his CXOs. This time it's with the head of IT. And at the same time, they are actually, they're discussing, and Indranil is worried because they're doing a customer care audit. And if you understand, when a call comes, the customer care records those transactions accordingly or whatever it is. So he's struggling because everyone writes differently. Although there are few drop downs, but someone says customer unhappy with bill, customer unhappy with service or whatever it is. And he's saying, listen, I need to analyze it. This data is completely unstructured. What do I do? And what this IT guy says is that maybe you must have all heard about ChatGPT. Can we load it into the ChatGPT and come out with a summary? Now, I'm saying this with all humility. We have actually done it in Titan. We have actually done it in Titan where transcript on a chat bot of a customer with a chat, with a robo, it was fully downloaded, 3.5 page, and like that many more. And each of that was converted into a 4-line summary. And I'm just digressing. Why I'm saying, and I'll come back to it, is that we did this inside, and we put the same one case into the ChatGPT AI, which is probably everyone who's used it. And in this conscript, there was one line which he said that I'm expecting an apology from your CEO, and I'm going to write to Mr. Tata. Our ChatGPT did not pick up this Mr. Tata. Outside ChatGPT picked up. Why? Because my ChatGPT was only reading at that English. It did not have the outside environment. So it did not know who is Mr. Tata. Whereas outside GPT had this entire information, knew that Mr. Tata is the head of a multi-billionaire conglomerate, it threw. But all I'm trying to say is that output and this output was similar. And today, as we speak, and I just got few WhatsApp images, we have put our DOA, PDF DOA, and only thing I have to do is I have to write if I have to give 30 lakhs of credit to this person, can I give it, or whose approval I need? System gives me. So any new joinee or any confusion, system is giving me. I just load a set of ledger, and ChatGPT gives me today, these are the serial numbers which are not meeting Benford law, or it is in conformance with Benford law. I load my accounts payable voucher, system throws off saying that these are user, this is the percentage of transactions made between the time you have specified, which I specified as after 8 p.m. and before 6 a.m. So what I wanted to actually throw with this is not just this story, but saying networking, which was important because I'm speaking to my CDO. I'm speaking to one CEO or a CXO, one every month. And I don't have to have an agenda for that. I generally go and ask him what's happening. I went once to the eye care head and said, how do you sell a spectacle? How do you make sure that a guy walks into your store to buy a spectacle? And he said very clearly, no. He said, there are some 14 or 15 very senior member, all of them wear specs, none of them, only barring few, others don't have even second spectacle. So how do but the same guy will go and probably buy 2 gold coins. So he explained those problems, and therefore when we were looking at sales and sales incentive, when we understood those audits, but important networking and technology, and I'm saying only one thing now, gone are the times when you need to have the right answer. Gone are the times. Answer is there in technology. This is a time only to know the right questions. The Benford law query was written by ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT how to write this. He wrote that query and gave it to me. It wrote that query and so gone are the days when you need to have the answers. Don't worry, now everything is there. Everything is there. You today type, what are the 5 top risks in diamond procurement? You will get them. I don't need any briefing when I'm going for the risk diamond procurement audit. I am in the business of jewelry. Diamond procurement is the biggest cost for me. So today I need to know the right. What are the, maybe I should now write, what are the sources which have maximum incidents of conflict diamond procurement? Which region has maximum? Then when I go to my purchase orders and see what are the locations, I figure that out. That is where we have come to. So therefore, technology is something you can't ignore, and there is nothing to worry about now. You are struggling on Excel, please ask GPT, it will give you. And I have seen this, I have done this. We work on Alteryx. There were things which Alteryx could not do. We had to refer to Python. We asked ChatGPT and it did it. It is possible. Maybe the first time it doesn't happen. Second time it doesn't happen. By the 5th time it definitely happens. Today you don't need to know the answers. You only need to know the questions. There is technology. There is this. I somehow don't agree to this artificial intelligence. If it is intelligence, it can't be artificial to some extent or whatever it is. But having said that, this is a commonly used term, artificial intelligence. So that is perhaps one of those more technical skills that as internal auditors we need to start using. Otherwise, our process owners will use that and come back and say, this is what it is. Yes, ChatGPT does not give always the right information. I'm a big buff of Hindi movies and Hindi songs, and sometimes I heard a song, I wanted to figure out which movie, it threw off some absolutely illogical answer. It is not always right, but at least it gives you the first feed. So, it's done, the day is kind of over, and one thing which an internal auditor should always do is at the end of the day, wrap up the day with a little bit of 10 minutes of introspection. And this, I believe, is a very, very serious learning that I have learned, that internally is doing it. Everyone familiar with this photograph? And then say the concept or the story. Yeah? What is it? Lakshman Rekha is the first RCM. Most ancient RCM. Risk, Sita getting kidnapped, control, Lakshman Rekha. Did the control work? Huh? Did the control work? Probably yes. Did it meet its objective? Definitely no. The control worked, but it did not meet its objective because Sita still got kidnapped. Now assume we are internal auditors who have been asked to do an audit of this process. One evening before Sita goes, you see, okay, there is a line. Sita should not cross. Yeah? And we'll say, if we were looking at process compliance only, we would say, yeah, everything okay. And next day Sita would be kidnapped, we'll go to the board and say, oh, Sita got kidnapped. We'll say, what, yesterday you said everything okay, today you're saying Sita got kidnapped. If we were looking at only process compliance, this is where we will end up. So therefore the next question is process adequacy or the control adequacy. Hey, this stops Ravan to come in. I'm saying Ravan or anyone else to come in. Why is it not stopping Sita to go out? Are we evaluating it from that perspective? First thing which the process, so first thing you need to question is that way. And before you prompt, I will say that the process owner will come and say, oh, should we not trust our employees? That's the first thing he'll come and say. Doesn't she have to go out, pick up berries, roots to cook for the night? How will she discharge her responsibilities if you make this line there? How will she go out and get ready for the evening dinner? So third thing which is there is process efficiency. Can we draw this line on a larger circumference but make sure Sita still doesn't go out? Okay. I'm being very candid with you. After I did this and for the last 1 or 2 years I've been living and thriving on this example, I myself have the next doubt for which I don't have an answer because of this technology is what if Ravan comes from the top in a Pushpak Viman? I don't have an answer for that before you guys ask me, but as an internal auditor, I'm sorry, process compliance, process adequacy, everything that you look at it, can you please wait with these 3 angles? And so, this is, if you guys want to write, but I'm happy to share this slide with all of you guys. As a summary, these are some personal attributes talking about conviction, communication, conflict resolution, and networking. And then you need to build up these, which is professional skepticism, risk understanding, and root causing. These are more IA skill based. And lastly, you're talking about analytics, facts, and technology, which is more, I would say, actual skill or talent. So this is broadly what I want to say. And before I close, I'm done. This is my last slide. I think the next is thank you. Yeah, before I close, I just want all of you to understand one thing, because I see a fairly good diversity from an age perspective. So there are young auditors and there are seasoned auditors here. Is that there is this famous anecdote about internal audit, that this young guy is writing a letter to a editor of a woman's magazine. So he says, I'm so-and-so, I've been engaged to this most beautiful girl in the society. She's really from the royal spot, blue-blooded, and most eligible bachelorette of the society. The problem is that my father is a drunkard, my mother is a kleptomaniac, my sister is a lady of night, my brother is serving parole. She knows all this. Do I tell her that I'm an internal auditor? Okay, so unfortunately, for whatever said and done, for a very long part of our life, we have gone through that skepticism and that thing. But you guys all smile. I think that is one of the most inherent things as internal auditors we need to be ready, is to be able to laugh at ourselves, to have that humility. That's about it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how much time we have.
We have 4 minutes for questions. So I think, please, questions?
No, but okay, you can be loud. Huh.
There may be a situation where we are in the dilemma.
Huh.
If we report something like that, it will punish the employees and it will be not fair on their part. So how to overcome that type of situation?
Very fair question. There is no straitjacketed answer to it. What is your organization's ethos? How big is the crime? Do you believe it merits, from your own objective stand, does it merit? End of the day, if there is a governance issue, and if you're able to do a root cause to identify that this is a genuine attempt, there is a process gap, or whatever it is, build that and say. Don't talk about a fact that there has been a 5,000 rupees shortage in cash. What is it? Has this guy been given enough resources? Has he been given enough infrastructure? Was it a one-off case? Have you seen that most of the times he locks it? So maybe you need to look at it from that perspective. But even if there is a dilemma, if there is a governance issue, I think there should be no dilemma. Unless you believe that it is a one-off case or whatever it is, then your governance issue also has to be accordingly mentioned. In the organization, there could be a lot of other political reasons because of which, even if it is not an issue, someone else wants to take care of him or manage it. There is nothing, you should not get into that. And that's unfortunately the kind of bitter truth that we will have to swallow. Yeah, sir.
Just adding to what he said, shouldn't the auditors be reporting everything and let the audit committee take that call whether to take an action or not?
Absolutely. Only thing I'm saying is, how do you present it? Are you going to say that there is a loss? Or are you going to say there was a process issue because there is a loss? Or are you going to say normally the process works, this has been one slip because of which there is a loss? And then how material is it that does need to go to the audit committee? Normally the audit committee is not the point which goes to the audit committee, and that takes is definitely significant. I think the question larger will be, there has been small lapses, and therefore should I even go to the CFO or even his boss per se, which could be still 2 levels. So audit committee, a matter which is relevant for audit committee has to go. There is no doubt about it. Even the others have to go, but at what level and how? I'm not saying sugarcoat anything. I'm not saying hide any facts. But if you believe in a humane manner that this is going to impact a person's career and life, can you do your bit of ensuring that route? Even after that, if he has stolen, then he has to be held. Then we can't be you can empathize, but you can't sympathize with him. Sorry, there was a question. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sivaram. I think a lot of your thoughts were very insightful. And what it also tells us is about the maturity of the organization in terms of, looking at audit and things like that. So the pertinent question that I have for you is, as auditors, where, we are also, dealing with the maturity of the organization in terms of how people look at audit. Do you think there is, we've arrived at a time where there is a need to, sort of reinvent how audit is looked at within the organization? The reason why I ask this question is twofold. One is obviously in terms of establishing value to the stakeholders, and also even sometimes to the stakeholders to whom we speak to. That's one thing. The second thing is obviously, with technology and so on and so forth, there is also, probably how we evaluate auditors within an organization, right? So there are obviously various means and forms in which they do it today.
There's one way of looking at it. Let's say Titan is a fairly Tata, much more governance, proactive, and not that Aircel was not like that. Here they would clearly take it, even if I would say there is an SOD conflict, they would go through the right set of processes and probably say, yeah, I'm accepting this risk and moving ahead, rather than then working into, no, but I want to do it only this way, you give me this solution. So the way I would have been evaluated in Aircel for the same issue as compared to Tata's is different. In Adani's, apart from all this, they would also look at solutions which would be, how do I optimize cost? How do I bring in synergies with our vision, or whatever it is? So they will look at it differently. And we need to, first of all, understand. For instance, in my first year in Titan, I went and said, I'll do this cost optimization, this. They said, hold on. You hired for governance, focus on governance. Anything that comes as a byproduct, we are more than happy with it. So there was a different way they looked at it. There's a different way someone would look. I can't apply my same logic of an Aircel in Titan because there's a different set of expectations. So we need to understand what those expectations are and work accordingly, as long as our fundamental issue of governance, the fundamental fiduciary responsibility of ensuring proper governance, is not compromised. He should not say, don't look at cash payments, but look at ways where I can speed up my, let's say, and some approving practices. Sorry. And if you're getting that kind of a pressure, my own recommendations would be that we sort of bite the bullet and move out of that organization. So obviously, I would say the BAC would expect you to be exercising the professional skepticism, because only then they get the right set of picture. The audit would also want to look at now, how much are we adopting technology, because as I say, even Devashish said, to move from insights to foresights. And if you guys had a doubt, I'll give you a very classic example of how you can use technology or otherwise to provide foresight. We in Titan, we take up the scheduled delivery dates of all purchase orders and say that on this following day, so many items are going to come as per the scheduled delivery date. We have our algo which says how much time will it take to do a quality check of these many items. And then we say, are you resourced enough to do that? And that's a predictive that we say that, listen, on 17th you're going to have so much and you may default or you may delay. So if you had, so this is what now the audit committees would expect. Now the only problem here is that you will tell, they will correct, and you will have nothing to showcase. But we today at Titan also, what we do is, as analytics, we start giving them trends of exception, saying that it is going down. And I have told my own organization that my shelf life of my analytics is not more than 2.5 years, because even after 2.5 years, I have to do that analytics and show exceptions, then I have not achieved my objective. So as audit committee, I think they would expect communication. You can't go and rant there. Professional skepticism and technology is what audit committee would look at it. I would definitely believe that if you look at that process obedience, process compliance, process efficiency, and process adequacy, if you start focusing on that, and obviously, see, end of the day, technology is helping you what? Technology is helping you to do more with less, which is what end of the day we all need to do. So broadly, I would say, see, everything else is, I just can't say. It's like asking whether I like my first daughter more or second. I mean, I don't have any other child, but a second son more. But that's very difficult to say. Each one of them is important. Networking is equally important. Networking will give you so many insights. Networking will give you a risk understanding. So all these are fairly linked, I would say. So very difficult to say which is important. But from a board audit committee perspective, I think skepticism and technology is two definitely things which you should be focusing on. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I might be stepping out and not in the conference for the next 2-3 hours, but will be there for the rest of the time today and day after. Anytime you guys want to reach out and speak, more than happy to.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I think it was a very, very insightful session. You actually walked through the day of an internal auditor. So thank you very much. So as a token of thankful appreciation, we would like to, on behalf of internal audit. So thank you, sir, for this session.